The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. So text, email, call, WhatsApp, whatever's on your mind. The floor is yours. Okay, so whatever it is you want to talk about, by all means do get in touch. And as I say, text, email, call and WhatsApp. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. No, just listened to what you were talking about before on your news, and I think I saw it yesterday as well, about how they're introducing a legislation or a bill that allow the lifting of railway lines, tram lines, horse tram lines, or anything of that ilk. Don't know where that's come from, but it'll be a brave or a foolish man that does that, or woman, because the trams, the trains, and the electric trams, etc., are all loved by a great many people on the island. And should any idiot want to bring this, there's far more important things to deal with within the present problems of the Isle of Man government than whether to bring in legislation about lifting railway lines, etc.
I mean, why do you think, who knows, perhaps we got this completely wrong. Perhaps this is just an innocuous piece of legislation that's nothing to do with that. But, why would anybody bother to do it?
Well, it makes you wonder yourself, what is the train of thought behind it? Because the DOI, now, I think they're overall, they look after the ability of the railways in all aspects. Now, what are they trying to do? They closed the sea terminal down. They've made a mess at the airport. That seems to be a regular thing, and these people, they seem to be hell-bent on destroying anything that's connected with the Isle of Man. And this is only one legislation, and it might not be used for the next 10, 15 years, but it's going to sit there, and the ability to do whatever they want in 10 to 15 years' time. So, well, it's already on the statute books. It's already gone through. We can do it. And people of my age will have already passed on by then, and they'll have nobody to object to it. So, apart from bringing it in, why don't they give a secondary speech, letter, information as to why they need to do this? Not just say, well, it'll sit there, nobody will use it. They must be planning on using it if they're introducing it. You don't go out and buy a car if you're not going to drive.
Yeah. To the best of my knowledge, and you probably have the advantage of me here, have you heard any politician say the horse trams are a really bad idea and they need to go and we shouldn't have had them in the first place? Has any politician said that out loud in public?
No.
So why would you think that somebody would think it's a good idea to get rid of the horse trams?
Well, there are people, and what we have, I'm not being prejudiced, biased in any other way, but we do have an awful lot of people that's come to live on the island who are now MHKs or ministers, and they don't have the Isle of Man way of living. They don't have an island way of living, and they don't have any respect for our heritage. They are gradually eroding that heritage away. And this is the trouble, as I say, the Manx people, we've got that old saying, trade will do time enough. Well, I'm afraid these other people have come in, and a lot of them have failed county councillors across, and they've come over here and seen a nice little job in the government and dived in as an MHKs. And
so, I mean, pardon me, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Howard, but are you saying there are some people come across here in positions of authority think they're coming here to educate the natives?
Yes, very much so. Yes. That is, at one time, if you look through the list of politicians in the past, a large percentage of them were of Manx local origin. Nowadays, I know I'm of Manx. I was born here and raised here and everything, but we got our own selves to blame, because if you don't go for the position that is there, then somebody else will fill the vacuum. And a lot of these people who are coming onto the island now will see this as a lucrative career, 5 years. They get a nice little pension at the end of their term of service. They get redundancy pay, which if you signed a contract for 5 years, you shouldn't be getting redundancy pay. They don't call it redundancy, they call it relocation. Or it's an administrative thing, and they get quite a serious amount at the end if they don't get re-elected, this is. And if they decide afterwards, okay, if they got a pension, fine, we can't do anything about that. Yeah. But there shouldn't be any form of redundancy pay, because they've just signed on for short-term work. So, that's my rant over. But why are they introducing this ability to remove railway lines? There's nothing there saying that they can put extra ones in. But I was sitting on the promenade the other day, last Thursday, and I was watching the traffic, and you can see why a big percentage of the traffic is now collecting in long queues on the Queen's Promenade end. And I said it before, original plans drawn up were to allow the electric railway, the electric tramway, to run through to the sea terminal. And the extra spacing between the two sets of tram lines is now causing congestion on the promenade. That's nothing to do with the horse trams, that's the planners. And it's bad planning, because they intended putting electric poles, or had some bright idea of fitting batteries to the trams to run the full length of the promenade. And that's why, if you look at them, there's a larger gap between the two sets of railway lines all along the Queen's Promenade, and that is what is causing problems with traffic. Nothing to do with the trams. The trams ran perfectly happy before that. It's an idiots or clowns or whatever they call themselves in government now. They drew these lines on the promenade, and I would say there's an extra 18 inches at least, which is conducive to the traffic congestion.
Okay, right. Well,
just going back to yesterday, Andy. Yeah. I listened to Wilf. I was busy yesterday, so I didn't get a full chance.
Oh, the eels.
Aye. Now, I don't know, people of my age may remember, but during the summer months, there used to be a lot of rowing boats in Douglas Bay, and they had the smaller motorised vessels to tow these rowing boats out from the harbour. Well, of course, these were surplus during the day because the rowing boats were in use. So they used to have fishing trips out into the bay to catch conger. And, well, obviously the people they did catch them, and they were quite a serious size.
Yeah.
And they're a nasty piece of work.
Oh, I say they've only got their mouths to work with, conger eels, but they can bite.
Oh, yes, seriously. And you used to see these where obviously these people couldn't take them back to the hotels. But conger eel is a nice fish to eat. They get the steaks. But there used to be dozens of these things hanging up on poles and the fence down there, or the railings as they are, on the promenade from Broadway over. And as I say, there was quite a few of these small motorboats that used to tow the rowing boats from the harbour, and they go out across into the bay. But I know, having worked down the pier of Manx Petroleums, the divers down there, they had to be very careful, because obviously the piers themselves will have dozens and dozens of nooks and crannies, and you didn't know what you were going down to, and you could meet these things any time in the harbours or around the walls.
Have you ever eaten conger eel, Howard?
Yes.
What does it taste like?
Well, to be perfectly honest, there's not a great deal of taste of it.
Is it fishy or what is it?
Well, I like fish, the taste of fish. Some of the stuff you get today, it tastes like cardboard. But conger eel is a perfectly good fish. You used to always see conger in the shops, cut into steaks about an inch and a half thick. And it's just one of these fads that people outgrew them, but they're a perfectly good fish to eat. And, well, you go down to London and you get jelly deals.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that somebody's been in touch yesterday, and was saying that apparently smoked eel is a real delicacy.
Probably is. I never got that far. We used to have, the kippers and the mackerel, but we never had I never personally, I can't remember. But there's lots of things that were eaten many years ago that are not eaten now. Yeah. In lots of cases, if it doesn't go ding and come out of a cardboard box, they don't have to cook it. But the conger eel is perfectly all right, and if you get quite a lot of steaks out of them. What's the biggest one you ever saw, Howard? Well, I'm only just imagination now, but some of them are six foot long at least. They grow to a serious size, and they can be quite wicked. They can be quite vicious. But as I say, the divers, the harbour board divers, when they were down, they were obviously very familiar with this, and they would know where a lot of these nooks and crannies, but they still have to be very careful because these things, they don't take prisoners. Okay. All right. Howard, we appreciate that. Thanks for calling today. Okay, take care. Good to hear from you. 18 minutes past 12. Does anybody eat conger eel now? Does anybody catch the darn stuff as well? This has bubbled up out of absolutely nowhere, but I'd love to know if conger eels used to be caught and eaten on the Isle of Man. Where are they now, and is anybody catching and eating them? I just wonder. Mark's with us now. Hi, Mark.
Yeah, hi, Andy. I'm just sort of following on a conversation we had a few weeks ago about the lack of information coming out of the government and Ørsted with regards to how the Isle of Man will benefit from the offshore wind farm of Mannin. And, I've read a lot of the information online, but I'm still struggling with, okay, so what does it mean for us? I'm actually sort of no issue to renewables as long as there's an economic benefit to the Isle of Man. And there's been a lack of just silence, really, despite all the, it'll create jobs and all that sort of stuff. And there's an interesting post on one of the local social media platforms, one of the sort of better ones. And one of the contributors sort of directed us to a press release back in 2014. I thought I'd share that with you because we both sort of said there's a lack of information. Yeah. So on Ørsted's website, and the post is formally under Dong, on the 10th of November 2014, it says, the Isle of Man estimate that leasing parts of the seabed for renewable energy generation will boost the Isle of Man's public funds by at least £5 million a year and create 50 new local jobs. Now, to me, that doesn't sound like a lot. I know it's back in 2014. And on this thread as well, another contributor directed us to a report which sort of analyses how much the seabeds in the UK have been leased for. And in this report, I think it's, I've noted it down, so I want to get it right, the Barringer Partners report back in 2021, it says that for a wind farm generating 1,500 megawatts, the seabed lease will be anywhere between 114 million and 231 million per annum. So the Mannin wind farm is 1,400 megawatts. So with rough maths calculations, the seabed in the Isle of Man should be leased for around 106 million to 214 million. So that's worrying. And I'm just worried that the silence is because a bad deal has been done. Now, interestingly, on this thread as well, another contributor went in for an FOI, and he wanted to get a copy of the Dong agreement. And the answer from the Isle of Man government, and if you allow me, I'll just read it out, because I think...
by all means.
Yeah. For a number of years, Ørsted and the Isle of Man government have been actively lobbying the UK government to include Isle of Man territorial seas in the contracts for different auctions, thus enabling the Isle of Man government to provide sites for offshore wind farms. The department's position is that the disclosure of the agreement would adversely affect the Isle of Man government's ability to attract any bids with more financially advantageous terms. So they're basically saying they're not going to give the information because they don't want to prevent us from getting any other agreements. But as far as I'm aware, we've signed an agreement with Ørsted. That's the agreement. We're not getting any other wind farm developers into the Isle of Man territorial waters. So that doesn't sit right. So in a nutshell, it seems to be that at the moment, the only facts that's on this thread and I can see is that the Isle of Man government have confirmed that it's going to be 5 million plus a year in revenue to the Isle of Man, and the Ørsted development is only going to happen if the UK allows Isle of Man territorial waters to be part of the contracts for difference agreement.
Right.
Now, I know the contracts for difference agreement is changed. I think it's now the power purchase agreements. But anyway, it's subsidised. So what that means is the UK government would subsidise Ørsted operation in the Isle of Man. So if the price of electricity goes below a certain price, the UK government would subsidise. So it just seems a bit, there's just a lack of information. And I think if the government made a statement back in 2014-15 about what this would be the benefit to the Isle of Man, why can't they reconfirm that right now? And on this thread, it also said that the agreement that was done in 2015 was renewed in 2022. So the current administration agreed to the renewal of the agreement. So they should be able, there's no reason why they can't tell the Isle of Man people what the benefit to the Isle of Man is. Because if we don't, again, I've got no real issues with wind farms, but if there's no economic benefit to it, we're going to be stuck for generations to come with these gigantic wind farms in territorial waters, and we don't know what the benefit is from the Isle of Man. So I think, do Tynwald know? Does anyone in Tynwald know?
Well, the thing is, at the moment, we're all stumbling around in the dark and nobody's turned the light on, in that we all hope to high heaven that the government knows what it's doing. We hope, we're putting our trust in the government now to get us the best deal, and surely if there was a compelling reason where this would be in our benefit, the government should just tell us, because everybody would be then scampering towards it and just saying that's fantastic.
And that's why I've had an interest in this. It's just because, great, this is but no one's told us what the economic benefit is. And the worrying thing for me, and there's a track record, and this is not personal on anybody within the department, the DOI have negotiated this contract, and they don't have a great track record in negotiating contracts. Yeah. Have they gone quiet because they're embarrassed about the contract they've signed and they can't get out of it? Well, I hope that's not the case, but just come clean. If there's a compelling argument financially for the Isle of Man, just let us know. And if it was 100 million, a year, I'd go absolutely go for it. But if it's 5 million a year, on your bike.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks for calling, Mark.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Good
Bye-bye.
to hear from you. Juan's with us now on Mannin Line. Hi, Juan.
Hey, Andy, you know what? How come you've offered Bonsai a new tea towel and I've got the one from the birdcage?
Well, yours is, how can I put it? It's antique. That's what it is. Yours has antique value.
Right, okay, so it's worth, if I go to Antiques Roadshow, then it's going to be worth more than Bonsai's. Okay, I'm happy with that then, there we go. Now, what about this straw poll last week, Andy? The straw poll for the best Mannin Line presenter. What did you think about that?
I don't know anything about that. What happened?
Did you not hear about that? It was a straw poll put on social media. It was a paper straw as well, just in case Lamar or Daphne phones up. It was a paper straw, but it was for the who were the top presenters of the Mannin Line, and Head of News was last out of the trap. She was in 4th place, but she gathered pace during the race, and she overtook Phil, but. They voted Alex in top of you. Can you believe that?
I know, and he's got a very sore wrist now with the number of times he clicked on that mouse.
Well, absolutely. I'm glad you said clicking on the mouse. That's yeah, absolutely.
I'd have voted for Alan Jackson myself. Andy Mack, he was great.
Andy Mack, yeah, there you go. David Collister. There's some names from the past, eh?
Anyway, that wasn't why you called.
You're right, it wasn't. It wasn't indeed. Just touching, without going into too much detail, on yesterday, Julian came out with the FOI information yesterday. And it was just a couple of points there I want to ask. £177 was an average price for electricity with green certificates. So when it says average, that actually is not the pricing, is it? We've got an average. So it could be as much as £300 per megawatt hour, not 177. And again, as Mark has just pointed out, really, we've got so much vagueness in this. It seems like someone really doesn't want to let any information go for whatever reason. And when we question Ben Sykes at the Ørsted meeting, and we asked about the agreement, which, again, as Mark said there, was signed in 2015. Well, when you try to go into any more detail, they just shrug their shoulders. They sat there, and this is the top man in the Ørsted that they sent over. He shrugged his shoulders and we can't divulge that.
Well, that's, I mean, as a commercial confidentiality, you know, they will be a quoted company. They can't, I mean, they are covered by commercial confidentiality. They can't say that, but surely politicians, if there's something waiting for us, if there's a big prize waiting the other side of the door, surely they should give us a clue as to, you know, what's in it for us.
And as again, as Mark said, I mean, if you look at the amount of money that the Crown Estates are getting for renting up the seabed, yeah. And again, the question has to be asked there. With the current monarch is so compelled to going down this green route. Why is he not investing that money back into the country? They're quite happy to take absolute fortunes and millions out into the Crown Estates for renting the seabed out. So again, I go back to my referral of always follow the money trail, because is this really for the benefit of the people, or is it just for making money? Because this whole green certificate thing just seems to be like, I mean, who's getting the money for them? We're paying for green certificates for what? It's just...
The trouble is that the truth about all these things will come out in about 10, 15 years' time. When we unpick everything, it's easy, you know, hindsight's 20/20 vision. So in 20 years' time, we'll know all about it. At the moment, like I say, we're just walking around in a dark room, looking for the light switch.
And there's a poignant thought there, isn't it? Stumbling around in the dark with no lights on. There's a poignant thought, because we keep asking about the base load for these things and how we're going to keep the lights on when these windmills are not working.
Never mind the lights, Joan. We're talking about servers for e-commerce and for e-gaming. If we don't have clean electricity, if we don't have electricity at the proper frequency that is constant, the e-gaming companies will be out of here completely if you can't have proper electricity. And that's one of the things that services the Isle of Man is we've got a good infrastructure, we've got a good name, we're regulated. That's why the e-gaming people are here.
And you're correct in that. The last government conference we were at, I think the sponsor then that was providing the refreshments, which they're looking for this year, was a e-gaming company. And when I was asking we were talking to one of the guys when we were there, and he said that was their priority. If they didn't have that stability, they wouldn't be here. They couldn't operate. So you're quite correct in that. And they were the ones that were one of the sponsors of the last government conference. So yeah, it is worrying that we're not getting any information. And I think now the question is, should we have this information? I think because of the overreach of government in the last 4 or 5 years, people are now taking a more interest in what's going on. Certain people, anyway, people still want to put the kettle on and they don't want to know about anything else. But people now are more concerned of what government's doing, because it's quite clearly shown that government are not sometimes working in our best interests. But
okay.
One more thing there, Andy, before you go.
Okay.
Tomorrow afternoon we're going to be up at, and I think Julian's going to be up there as well. We're going to be up outside Manx Radio, up Douglas Head, by the Williams Hillary statue, about 12:30 to 1:30. If anyone wants to come and say hello, and hopefully maybe Howard might pop over. If anyone wants to come and say hello to us, and like-minded people want to talk about facts and figures, we're going to be up there as long as it's not raining between 12:30 and 1:30.
All right, Joe, and have a good time.
Take care.
So, the story concerns have been raised that the potential changes to planning law could allow the DOI to remove tram tracks without seeking permission. This proposed permitted development order 2024 would allow for the development of any tramway works without having to put it to a planning application. Well, a public consultation into the proposed changes has now closed. John Moss from the newsroom's got the details.
The government's aim in this review is to speed up planning. It would concentrate, they say, their finite resources on proposals most needing scrutiny. Between 2020 and 23, it says annually, of the 1,400 applications submitted, over 60% were for smaller items. Removing the need for planning from many of these would seem pragmatic. But included in the order currently are the words development for the purposes of any tramway work consisting of the installation, maintenance, improvements and removal or other alteration of tramway tracks. It's that which has caused tram supporters to suggest it could open the way for the removal of tram tracks, perhaps between Laxey and Ramsey, and axe any thought of horse trams from the War Memorial to the sea terminal. The government emphasises that this is still in the consultation stage.
We are at the home of the halfway horse tram on the Isle of Man. Have you got any thoughts?
Hey, I'm Peter Hickman, and I just want to wish everybody at Manx Radio a mega happy birthday.
We interrupt this broadcast to inform all our listeners about the huge range of bathrooms and showers on display at Pacesetter. Yes, you all know that Pacesetter is known as the island's largest tile store, but I'm here to tell you that their bathroom displays are truly inspirational. Visit Pacesetter on Harris Terrace, where you'll discover a fabulous collection of stylish bathrooms. There's something to suit everyone, with design available. Pacesetter bathrooms and showers to show off about.
There's more than you think at Manx Glass and Glazing. As well as the supply and installation of quality windows, doors and conservatories, Manx Glass and Glazing can do a lot more with glass. If you need made-to-measure picture frame glass or a cut-to-size mirror, or how about glass shelves made to fit your space perfectly? You can also get glass cut for the tops of cabinets, units and bedside tables. For bespoke glass cutting and products, call Manx Glass and Glazing on 674 573. Manx Glass and Glazing. Quality and style since 1986.
Oil-fired boilers installed by Manx Petroleum keep homemakers happy and businesses a better place to be. If your current boiler is over 10 years old, you're missing out on better economy and efficiency. That's because today's oil-fired boilers from Manx Petroleum are the best they've ever been. From semi-detached dwellers to office occupants, our boilers and tank installations come with interest-free finance. Visit mp.im. Manx Petroleum, always here for you.
After another long spell on the road, FC Isle of Man are finally back on home turf this weekend and for one of the biggest games of the season. This Saturday, the Ravens welcome title hopefuls Bury to the Bowl, with hundreds of fans once again expected to travel to Manx shores for the spectacle. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Tony Mepham for FC Isle of Man versus Bury, kicking off at 6 p.m. this Saturday. Manx Radio will be providing full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels. Live coverage of FC Isle of Man on Manx Radio is supported by Selton, investing in our community.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And well done to the Ravens. They beat Prestwich Hayes 3-1 last night. Terrific, after going 1-0 down as well, so well done. So looking forward to that on Saturday. The FOI number quoted yesterday for the interconnector was incorrect, says my friend William. He says it's 3963253. 396 3253. The number given yesterday was 396 3453. It's 396 3253. Thank you, William, for that. And if you want to take a look at that, and if you've never gone to that Freedom of Information site, you will be there all day and night probably just looking at some of the information that's there. A lot of what government does is absolutely transparent. You can see it all there. It's just that there are other things that are somewhat obscured. It might be nice to know why they're obscured. Obviously, there will be some reasons, but transparency was the key word. Anyway, Eddie's on now. Hi, Eddie.
Hi, Andy. All right, mate?
Very well, thanks.
Good. I've not been on for a while. I prefer to listen sometimes, and Howard was on first, wasn't he? And he's so right in what he says. There's so many sneaky things going on. It is unbelievable. And that seems to be the pattern of everything that seems to be topical the last few weeks that I've been listening. There is no faith, no trust, no... I don't know. It's just such a bad state at the moment. I think we're getting very, very close to the time where people are going to ask for a no confidence in the government. It's Julian was on the other day and giving us figures. He's very good with his figures. He's brilliant, and people should sit up and listen because. We're gonna if people think that we're blowing a lot of money on the recent catastrophes that we've had, Liverpool and the boat and so forth, then we're heading for 10 times worse than that. The government want to step back and just think what they're doing at the moment, because nothing that they're doing is popular. They haven't, and they're keeping everything dead secret, which is very suspicious. Then they're not going to have the public on their side.
In particular, what bothers you, Eddie?
Everything at the moment. It's just, like you've had that other caller on before about the secrecy of everything. I mean, why don't they give us some figures? I mean, if the wind farms go ahead, for instance, on the East Coast, we need to know. It's the people of the Isle of Man's money who's being wasted. There's a big difference between, I think he quoted between £5 million and £230 million. Yeah. Well, let us know. Why do you have to hide? If it's like somebody else said, if you're buying a car, it's got an asking price on it. And you're going to go a little bit this way, a little bit that way, but give us the asking price of what do the government want for this seabed? Tell us. Yeah, well, I mean,
surely they know what they'd want. Surely they've got an upper and lower limit, but under which they won't go. Surely they could at least tell us that and say, well, we're going to be getting a minimum of X, Y, and Z.
That's what everybody out here is thinking at the moment, Andy. All as I am is, a lot of people say to me, ask them this, ask them that, Ed. They think I'm a spokesperson, and I don't mind being that, I must be honest. But they're all asking the same questions, but the government are giving no idea whatsoever how much all this is going to cost. We've already done our own estimations, and right from the minute go, they said they might need 100 wind turbines onshore. That would cost over £2 billion. Right? And even then, you're going to need some sort of a backup when there's no wind. But there is no clarity. Right from the minute go, they said clarity and transparency. There is none. They're getting so close, I can guarantee you that the public are going to rise up and say, out, we want you out. You are just making such a mess of our island. And what spurred me on today was Howard at the beginning saying, about people not caring, a lot of strangers coming in, not Manx people, no prejudice, and it reminded me of what I said a couple of months back about Mr. Wallenberg. I wasn't being nasty in any way. What I was trying to say was that he is a person coming here without the love of the island that we've already got. He will get it in time, but it's something that grows on you about the Isle of Man. I mean, my family tree goes back to 1500 earlier even. I was born in Manchester, but I've spent 59 years of my life in the Isle of Man, and I love the Isle of Man. And I'm like as Manx as anybody around me. And I haven't heard one person, should I say, who wants to see Blackpool Towers spread all over the land, whether it be in Airstane or up the central valleys. We don't want them.
Okay. All right. I've got to dash on, Eddie, because we've got a queue of people there, but we appreciate your points today.
Okay, mate. Thanks.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. And Tony's on now. Hi, Tony.
How are you doing, Andy?
Very well. I've just been learning all about Anguilla anguilla. Do you know what Anguilla anguilla is?
No, I don't think so. Probably an eel.
It is. The scientific name for an eel is, and thank you, Matthew, who told me, Anguilla anguilla. The eel is famous for its slippery nature and mammoth migration from its freshwater home to the Sargasso Sea where it breeds.
Yeah, which is basically in the Bermuda Triangle. Not far from Florida.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's the middle of the ocean.
Wow.
Sargasso Sea is basically a floating mass of weeds and seaweed, which they all inhabit. But they're not the big eels, so it's not congers.
Right.
Right, so you asked a question about conger eels.
Yeah.
I'll try and give you help here. When I was a child, I was taken away from the island and went to London. And in the fish and chip shops in London, during the cod wars, they used to sell something called rock salmon, which of course was cheap. Which was actually, because I tried to find out, well, what the hell is this rock salmon? It's all right, it tastes nice. Deep fried with a spine in the middle of it, it's not gelatinous, but it's not a bony spine, put it that way. It's just one piece down the middle.
Right.
And it's conger eel. Used in the fish shops, certainly in London, because it was cheap and there wasn't much cod around. Cod was incredibly expensive during the cod wars.
Right.
Before they settled everything. So conger eel used to get eaten in South for sure. And if you want to go to Holland, you can get Hazelmere smoked eels, which are much, much, much smaller. The same size as a normal freshwater eel you see over here, maybe a foot long. And they catch them and smoke them. And they are absolutely beautiful. But they come to you like a stick of rock and you just suck the meat off the bone. The spines that are on it, because it all goes hard when it's smoked. So it's quite a lot of people in the world eat eel, and Chinese certainly eat eel. But conger eel is a speciality, I'd say.
It's interesting. I had a message in yesterday about somebody who said that Howard was talking about them being caught, I think, in the 60s and possibly earlier. Yeah. But apparently they were caught to order for Chinese restaurants on the Isle of Man.
Yes, that wouldn't surprise me one little bit, because that is a delicacy in China. And it's just a different fish, but it is quite different because you've got like a bony centre to it. It's not bone, it's just gristle, but it's a very gristly centre. There's not a lot of bones in it. In fact, there's no bones in it. And then all the meat's on the outside, as it were. So I think there's one other comment I'd like to make today. Dewey better check whether he's going to be within a prescribed zone tomorrow. Otherwise, he might get arrested by somebody he didn't know about. The whole of the island is heading towards 1984 land. Because every time we ask a question, we get told, no, it's not in your interest to know that. And the other reason is because they are going and doing things without telling anybody or asking anybody and keeping it very secret. Ergo, I can take up whatever I want. And, oh, by the way, this is now a prescribed area, so you can't protest about it.
Right.
I mean, this is really getting worrying.
Well, I just wonder where it's coming. I wonder where this is coming from, Tony, because I'll say what I'm thinking. It doesn't sound very Manx to me. It doesn't sound. Normally, we can sort things out amongst ourselves on the Isle of Man. We don't need lots and lots of legislation.
Yeah, well, you've just had somebody try and introduce a bill that says you can do what you like if you're somebody at the hospital. I can describe a zone or whatever, and they're associated, I believe, that MHK is associated with the Manx Labour Party, isn't it? And that's where it's coming from. We're getting the UK divisional type politics where you will do what I say and you're not allowed to protest about it. And I'll tell you what, if that all ends, if that's how it's all going to end up, people will leave the Isle of Man in droves. Everybody who can will leave because it's just getting worse and worse. We're not getting told things. This whole deal with the wind farm offshore, ask yourself a question. The head of the DOI was kicked out as soon as Alf Cannon got in, he was kicked out. Could that be because he'd signed an agreement with the outfit Ørsted that wasn't in the best interests of the Isle of Man? And it will look horrendous when it all comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it.
As I say, we won't know until it's too late, will we?
Well, that's the whole point. That's the point of everything, though. It's the point of, you're giving powers to people like DOI who don't know what to do with them and couldn't negotiate their way out of a paper bag. Everything they've touched has been a disaster, and nobody in government seems to see it. And that's because it's too late to fix it. What they need to do is dismantle the DOI, get rid of all the people that made these decisions, and the government needs to do a 180-degree U-turn. And the only way that will happen is next election, the Manx people need to get out there and vote. The voting record on the Isle of Man is appalling. We all complain, but how many people actually go and vote?
Okay. All right, Tony.
It really is.
All right, I appreciate it.
Like I said before, we need to have a discount on your taxes if you vote. No vote, and we'll double your taxes. Okay. That'll get people out there.
All right, thanks for calling today.
You take care. Well, Andy, you've got to be serious and get tough with this, because otherwise it won't happen. We'll just go through the same rigmarole as we did last time.
All right, thanks,
Lots
Tony.
of promises and no concrete. Take care.
Cheers.
All the best. Bye.
12 minutes before 1. In Australia, you get fined if you don't vote. I think it's $25 if you don't vote. It's compulsory to vote. I mean, you don't get locked up or anything, but if you don't exercise your democratic right in Australia, you get fined. So is that what we do? Well, Thursday, 24th of September 2026, so a little over 2 years, is the next Keys general election. Thursday, 24th of September 2026, from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. The voting booths are going to be open, so a little over 2 years' time. What do you think about it? It could be that we have somebody listening now who's going to be an MHK. In fact, a new MHK. No doubt somebody is listening who will be a new MHK in a couple of years' time. And perhaps that person is you. What would you do? Well, text, email, call and WhatsApp. A note in from Nigel in Laxey, who just said the DOI is seeking to change to the permitted development rules, which, if agreed, allows for removal or other alteration of any of the lines, railway or trams. And Nigel says, I'm very concerned that the proposed changes to the permitted development order, which are being put forward by planning, are intended to reinforce DOI's position or concerns with regard to completing the Horse Tramway to the sea terminal and potentially removing the tramway in whole or part between Laxey and Ramsey. This is the kind of dark rumour that always swirls around, is that in government there is a body, a person, a group of people who simply don't like the trams and think that the electric railway is just a waste of money and a waste of time. And they want to close the line between Laxey and Ramsey, and they want to never extend the tramways to the sea terminal. As yet, nobody, elected politician or senior civil servant. Nobody has put their hand up and said, that's me.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
Coming up, we have another winning weekend here on Manx Radio. And this time we've teamed up with Miller Chaps to give you the chance to win a £200 voucher to spend in store. All you have to do is listen out for our winning question, which we'll ask on air right across the weekend. And once you've heard it, text your answer to 166 177. Miller Chaps offer everything for your home with over 40 top brands. They've also expanded their stressless and temper collections, perfect for upgrading your space before winter. You'll find them in Parliament Street in Ramsey. Make this your winning weekend with Miller Chaps and your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Julian's with us now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Very well, thanks. Are you bringing sandwiches tomorrow?
Well, I don't know. Might have to bring an entire... Depends how many turn up, I suppose. I don't know. In the interests of stopping misinformation and disinformation, I will just repeat the FOI number that I got right the first time.
Oh, did you?
Because I think somebody texted in and altered one of the figures, which is also to do with the MUA, but has nothing to do with what I said.
Oh, well, there's more than one.
Yes, it just so happens that there are 2 MUA FOIs out there, amongst many, I'm sure. So I will repeat the number that needs to be looked at.
Okay.
So we are looking at 3963453.
Right, okay.
By the way, I was very impressed with Mary yesterday. I was aware of the curtailment, crazy amounts of money, and more than half of all the energy generated from the new Shetland Isles Viking Energy wind farm has been paid for to stop, which is the whole philosophy of it's crazy. And I'm also working on some other figures to do with some other bits to do with the Isle of Man, which I think are going to be shocking. But I will not say anything until I'm 100% sure on that.
Okay. You've got a minute, Julian.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mark, and it was interesting looking back at that 2014 document. £5 million rather than the what should be for the same sort of area between 106 million upwards of 200 million. So that is not a deal. And I think, I don't know, where is everyone? Perhaps they're in a safe space access zone at the moment. We can't get hold of anybody.
Why are we being kept in the dark? Why is nobody giving us the good news?
Why does anybody keep quiet when they tout something is absolutely fantastic and it will be amazing? And it clearly isn't.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that, Julian. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Good to hear from you. Right. So there are 2 FOI numbers, 3963453 and 3963253. After Mannin Line today, a special 60th anniversary Kelly's Eye looking at Cubban and Bragazzi in Tramode. You got anything that you'd like to get to Mannin Line? Remember, the answer phone is 682-631, 682-631, or you can email manninline@manxradio.com. Thanks for all the eel recipes. Very tasty. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation station. This is Manx Radio.
Kelly's Eye, brought to you by Ellis Brown Architects.
Peter, on this glorious Saturday afternoon, the sun's shining on the top of our bald heads. What are you looking at today?
You know why the sun is shining, don't you? And it's bright, and the birds are singing, and the cows are mooing.
No, why is that? Just because it's springtime, is it?
No, because we're in Onken.
Ah.
Just in Onken, mind you.
Only just?
Yes. We're down at Tramode, and we've come out behind what at one time was Clippis's Laundry. And Kelly's Eye is looking at a modern building, and it's sort of got a half moon up there, but it's really half a C, and it intertwines with half a B.
Ah.
Which is a logo, I presume, because underneath it says Cubban and Bragazzi.
Yes, not Cubban and Bragazzi, or Cubban, but Cubbin.
Cubbin, yes. This is their new premises. We're down in what is technically the Tramode industrial estate, but here we have a retail unit. It's modern. It has 4 pillars on the front. It has probably fiberglass section up above, which is the shape of the roof, the tympanum, upon which is the name and the logo. Behind that, it has darkened glass for the full width of the frontage. To the right of it, we have sort of a typical industrial unit, which is part yellow brick and then part brown self-covered sheeting going over the brick in a sort of modern cutout design. The area, of course, on which this is the latest group to be built here, was for many years football pitch. And did you ever play football or cricket?
Played cricket here, yes. Not so far away, by the stream to the far side of the Boundary River. I think we'd still find some of the bricks from the base of the cricket pavilion.
Right. Well, I don't remember that. I remember on this side changing huts for the football.
That's right.
That they were close to the main river. Up on that side, of course, it's the mill race, which is still there. Water still flows down it and then cascades down the side. But yes, it's neat, it's tidy, and it's in Auckland.
Many of the most iconic buildings around the island have been designed by Ellis Brown Architects. Keep up with Ellis Brown today on Facebook or via ellisbrown.in.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.